What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Chat Room, a podcast dedicated with having interviews with upcoming stars and influencers of our generation. Please follow us on Facebook and Instagram at thechatroom.tcr and on Twitter at thechatroom_TCR. Also, don't forget to become one of our valued Patreon members, which allows you to unlock exclusive content while also supporting this podcast. Enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Chat Room. My name is Kudzai, and yes, we are here for the second episode of the month. Yes, your time is moving so quickly, but it is what it is. Today, I'm joined by someone we know well. Hey, Natasha, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm so glad to be back on the chat room. Thank you for having me.
No problem. And you can tell she laughed because we were making a joke about how school is killing us, and it is what it is. But yeah, how are you doing? Hey, just in general during these weird times, you know.
I think this year is definitely better than last year because last year we were so uncertain about everything, and the COVID cases were like at an all-time high. So it's definitely calmed down now. And I'm so glad that I can be back in SA and physically be on campus and do the work. It definitely makes a difference.
We see the flicks. Some of us are still back home doing our stuff, but hey, we're working, we're getting there. You are right. It's good to be back in South Africa. Just, being in the school environment makes things much easier. But it's good to have you here, and we're just going to be talking about the work that you do. And for those that don't know, Natasha is a fine artist. So the other time on your poster, I made an error. We put fine artist, something like that. But and then you corrected me and you're like, nah, it's fine artist. So please do explain to us what fine art is just before we get into the interview.
Okay, so I'm going to explain it in terms of what I study. So I'm studying a BA in fine art at the University of Pretoria, and fine art is basically a degree that has that consists of a lot of disciplines like painting, drawing, photography, sculpture, installation, new media. So there's a lot that goes into fine art. That's why I was saying I'm a fine artist, not a fine art artist. If it makes sense, like you'd be repeating yourself.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
What fine art is.
All right, cool. And just getting right into it. Does your work, like the work that you do, relate to any aspect of your personal life?
I'd definitely say my personal life shapes my work in that I draw inspiration from my surroundings, and I draw inspiration from the different environments that I find myself in as a Zimbabwean living in South Africa. So that definitely has an influence on my work.
All right, cool. And what exactly does your work actually aim to say? So if I look at your work, what am I looking at? What am I supposed to get out of that?
So the thing I like about my work is that it's open for interpretation and it's open for misinterpretation. And that's the thing with all fine art. Like when you go into a gallery, you don't necessarily go and read the artist statement or description. You're looking at the work and you're positioning your understanding from what you think it is. So I think that's what I try to do with my work, even though I'd say it stems from socio-political issues and family matters and with my dual heritage as a South African and a Zimbabwean. So that's just the basis of my work, but it's definitely open for interpretation.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I was actually going to ask you next, if your work comments on current socio-economic or socio-political issues. And yes, I think I think one of the best, your work is great, so it's hard to pick. It's hard to pick from it, and I'm not just hyping you up. But one of my favorite pieces was when you talked about the social political situation in Zimbabwe, right? And I haven't seen like since then, I haven't seen any other political work, I think. So I wanted to ask, does your work comment on the current social or political issues? And if so, how so? The current work that you've been doing? Or is it just, other things now?
Okay, so you're right in saying that you haven't seen much socio-political work since that one that I posted on my Instagram. And that's because the more socio-political work that I do, I keep it for academic purposes. So I submit it to my lecturers and they review it, but I don't share it online because I've become obviously more conscious of what I post online and certain views and certain things that could potentially get me in trouble. So that's why I've limited my socio-political work to like
and
university.
Natasha, sorry to cut you in, but that's actually very interesting. Do you think that's like a barrier when it comes to the creative world, and just branching out a little bit, with artists, they can't sing about certain things. Photography can't take pictures of certain things. Do you think that's a barrier when it comes to people in the creative world?
I think it is a barrier, but it's also about the risks that you're willing to take and the lengths you're willing to go to communicate a certain message. So it's all about what you're willing to do.
All right, cool. And obviously you said that your work is now, you're conscious about what you're posting and stuff like that. So what are the biggest influences on your current work?
I'd say for my painting, I'm inspired by an artist called Kehinde Wiley. He's an American oil painter. And the reason I'm inspired by his work is that he takes Black imagery and he places it within a Western context and changes the meaning in order to portray Black people in a positive light. And that's something that I also aim to do with my work, even though my work is a bit more abstract.
And please do explain to us people that don't understand, what's the difference between oil painting, abstracts, paint? Because for me, when people say I'm an artist, I'm just thinking of the paint, hey?
Yeah. Okay, well, in terms of painting, when I say like oil painting, watercolor painting, acrylic painting, that's the different kind of paint that is out there. Like, they're different paints that are made of different substances or materials. So, for example, oil painting is oil-based and acrylic painting is water-based. So that's how you differentiate between the types of actual paint. And then when I start to say abstract or traditional or minimalistic, that's when I'm talking about the style of the work. So how the artist chooses to portray the work, if that makes sense.
That's very interesting, hey? And which type of painting do you prefer?
I prefer abstract painting because it goes back to what I said about leaving it open for interpretation. Yeah.
All right. No, 100%. That's very interesting. Hey, so now, we talked about your business a little bit back in the day when we had that first interview, and wow, I think all the loyal listeners and the people that have been on the chat room since day one can safely say that your business has developed, your career has developed. So please do tell us where you are going, where you've come from, because I saw the other time you were shipping paintings to Nigeria and all that stuff, and it's incredible stuff. How have you developed your career?
Okay, so I think I'll start by saying it began in COVID times. Everything was uncertain, and I just wanted to see how my art would be received by the Zimbabwean art market, which isn't very big, but it's a niche market, and there are those people who are interested in kind of art, selling framed artworks and doing personal portraits and personal illustrations and logos, and just building on what Fine Art by Tash can offer people. And I'm lucky to have had the opportunity to, as you said, ship to Lagos, Nigeria, because that means that there's an opportunity for my work to have an international reach. And that's one of my goals, to keep developing that reach worldwide.
All right, cool. And how do you seek out your opportunities? Because I mean, you are still in school, you have to go out in class and stuff like that, but you have a business to run and you're doing business paintings at the same time. So how are you finding that balance?
It's a tricky balance because I'm creating my own art and I'm also studying art and creating art for university purposes. So it's definitely about time management, and I always like to pride myself in having a good work ethic. And what was I gonna say? And developing a good relationship with whatever client you encounter, whether they're going to buy your work or not. That's something that I always like to establish before I go on to the sales. And in terms of getting out there, Instagram is my platform for marketing and sales, and it really does have some good creative tools for young creatives out there to get their business started and launch their ideas into the world, such as sponsored ads. And people are now into, video and reels and stories. So it's all about also grabbing attention on that platform, because there's so much art out there. So it's about how your art speaks to the world.
Interesting stuff. Guys, if you need art, please go to our Instagram page. I don't even have to hype you up here. Please just go to our Instagram page and see what we're talking about. But moving on, how do you actually price your artwork? Like when you paint, how do you be like, this artwork is $2, $3? How are you going about that? Or are you not going to tell us your secret there?
It's an interesting question because it's a tricky question. I'll say what personally works for me is I work out the cost of production first, and then I add my profit to that to make sure that I'm not just producing art and not making anything from it, because I have to also survive off of this creativity. And it's also about being versatile and negotiating, especially in the context of Zim, where prices and what can I say? How can I say it in a nice way? It's an environment full of hyperinflation, and prices can just peak at any moment in time. So it's definitely about being versatile and understanding.
All right. Okay. I mean, that does make sense. You've got to make a profit, and it's I mean, there's that painting that I'm eyeing. I hope it's still hanging there. And even if it takes me a few years to save up.
It's waiting for you, bro. It's waiting for you.
Shout out. And just the last question that I really have for you. And, you talked about how you want your art to be on the international market, as it should be, right? Currently, you did manage to ship to Nigeria and stuff like that. But had it been out of Africa, had it been in Europe, in America, Asia, whatever the case may be, right? Would you be able to ship it to that part of the world? Like, is that a market that you are entering now, or is it something that's for the future?
So I'd say with my sponsored ads on Instagram, I try to vary the target market. So I obviously put Zimbabwe and South Africa first, then I branch it out into Africa, and then obviously overseas. And it's definitely possible to ship. Like, shipping shouldn't become a barrier for young Black artists. Like, that shouldn't be a barrier at all, even though the prices are very high. It's definitely worth it when you're getting your art out there, and it's not just within your local context.
All right,
so
cool.
That's definitely a market that I've already entered. It's just that I'm waiting to make a sale, but there are those inquiries from, for example, Russia and China.
Oh, that is so true. And obviously, like, like I keep saying, your art is genuinely, I rate it highly, personally. So I'm sure other people will be able to rate it highly. But let's just move on to the best part. Well, not the best part, but it is the best part for me because I get to ask you fun questions. And sometimes the people are like, how do I answer this? But I have two fun questions. And obviously, because you work with a lot of color, this is going to involve some color. So please tell me, how would you describe the color yellow to someone who is blind?
I'd describe it via feeling. So I'd describe it as warm and comforting. Yeah, I'd use those two simple words.
So it's yellow, warm, comforting.
Yeah.
Oh, Natasha.
No. So you think of yellow, you think of the sun, don't you?
Yeah, no, I do. I mean, it would have been better. All right, but like, this person doesn't know that the sun is yellow. So it's like...
Yeah, that's why I'm saying you describe it through feeling, because they know what warmth feels like and they know what comfort feels like, even though they can't see it. Because colors are linked to emotions.
Oh, all right. Okay. So listeners, you can see these creative people. They are trying to sidestep us. No, I'm just joking. Nah, that's a perfect explanation there. And then the last one, how would you communicate? How would people communicate in a perfect world?
That's a difficult question. I don't think there's such a thing as a perfect world.
100%.
And I think I'll leave my answer at that.
All right. I think I'll be nice. I'll be kind enough to also leave it there. But Natasha, it was a blast having you here once again. Like we were talking before we started recording, it is a busy time for us students as well. And it's just crazy to be able to catch up in an interview setting. So just before you leave, as always, please, can you give us your piece of advice, especially to those people in the creative sector, both in Zimbabwe and in Africa as a whole?
Okay, so this goes back to what I was talking about centers and margins. You should be aiming to create your own center from which you speak and voice your work, from which you develop a mode of being a contemporary Black individual. So I would encourage, especially young artists, to work on developing a strong creative voice, because this is the voice that people are gonna recognize through your work. For example, you can look at a work and immediately know that that's fine art by Tash work. I don't even need to look at the label. I don't need to look at the description. I know that's the work because I've recognized that voice. So that's definitely an important piece of advice that I've received, that I've taken forward throughout developing my business. So that's what I would say to everybody.
Yes, and proof that her advice actually works. Go to a page. And while you're at it, please do follow the chat room at the chatroom.tcr on Instagram. Thank you guys for listening in to another episode of the chat room. It was good to have you. Until next time.
Thank you.
Peace.